Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
Hey kids, welcome to Grumpy Nostalgia, the Second Look Cinema podcast, the show where we go back to the blockbuster new release wall of our memory, grab a copy off the shelf, pop it in the old VCR, and see what time has done to it. I'm Justin, that's Mike.
No arigato.
That's Emmy and Janice.
Woo!
Hi.
And collectively, we're here to help you navigate all the landmines littered down memory lane. So, Mike, this is a very special episode. Obviously, we're joined by some very special guests. Wouldn't you say?
That's right. That's right. They're above our intellectual level.
We're finally starting to class up the show a little bit. For those that aren't aware, Emmy and Janice are the creative team and hosts behind the Secondhand Nostalgia podcast, the companion podcast to your own Grumpy Nostalgia. Thank you, guys. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, we're excited to be here. Yeah.
So, among all their other credentials, Emmy and Janice are soon to be graduating seniors at Yale University. And they're much smarter than everybody listening. So just accept that. It'll just be a lot easier for you. Mike and I have, and we're moving on just fine. So in addition to all those other attributes, they're also fans of anime. When we decided to potentially collaborate on something, they've suggested that we look at what's generally considered one of the more, if it's not in there, it's in the top 5 at least, of Japanese anime. And this is Spirited Away of 2001.
Yes, I'm so glad to watch something actually good.
Yeah, for those. This is our last episode. The last one we covered was Con Air, which even though this most recent movie featured frogs and smoking jackets and humans being turned into pigs and a special spirit world and giant babies, oddly,
there were no monkeys, Justin.
No monkeys.
So we're good.
But oddly, the narrative of this movie is more plausible than Con Air. So go figure. So, but they're here. They're in the co-host chair, and we could not be happier.
Thank you.
So this is a subgenre we really haven't explored on Grumpy Nostalgia. We typically do the popcorn movies, like we just talked about. So when you guys offered a different subgenre to explore, we thought this would be interesting, to kind of delve into as part of a palate cleanser, if nothing else, from the previous week's Stinkburger. Anime is an interesting subculture as well, so that their fans tend to be super passionate, and hopefully we can kind of break through that audience as well. So anime is not your average run-of-the-mill type obsession, but for the people that do love it, they super appreciate it. So Janice, what kind of brought you into the anime, the subgenre? What kind of got you interested in that to start with?
Yeah, so my family has always really been big in it. It's actually really interesting because we're from very rural Appalachia, and it's not something that you would typically expect. But both of my parents are really into it, and I always grew up on it, whether if it was watching cartoons like Chowder or Adventure Time, or if it was watching actual animes like Bleach and Inuyasha. It was something that was always a very constant presence in my life, and therefore it's just really carved an outlet throughout my childhood and adolescence. And specifically Spirited Away, I found to be very influential throughout my middle school experience, but I'd never watched it until my freshman year of high school, interestingly enough.
Emmy, what about you?
Well, I didn't really watch anime at all until I became friends with Janice. So she would be the influence there. I moved in with her and we watched things like My Hero. We watched Demon Slayer, a lot of different stuff. And we watched my second Studio Ghibli movie, which was House Moving Castle, and eventually My Neighbor Totoro, both of which are great. By the same studio that produced Spirited Away. But I actually saw Spirited Away for the first time in 9th grade at an art club meeting where we sort of put it on in the background for its beautiful visuals while we were drawing. And it was really cool, but I remember being really freaked out by it in the moment because I looked up at just the wrong moment to see the pig scene, and it kind of freaked me out for a while.
Yeah, there's a lot of imagery here that if you're not mature enough or emotionally ready to handle it, there's some stuff that can be, a little upsetting, I would think, for sure. So speaking of a little upsetting, Mike, what about you?
Yes.
Do you remember your first?
Even for a 50-year-old, it was upsetting to watch. It's funny, though, how whimsical they are in this movie about, some of these scenes, too. It's like, there's some ghosts.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't see this movie till about a year ago. My daughter convinced me to watch it, and her tastes are kind of weird and abstract, but you would, if you knew her, you would know she was kind of odd. But she finally got me to watch it, and I was blown away. It was like I said, being an artist myself, I just love the fact that this was a hand done animation process. And
yeah,
you look at the credits, you see how many animators kind of worked away on this thing, and it just made me really appreciate just the detail and the craft of it. The story was good in itself, but just to see some quality animation after seeing all the digital stuff that comes out of what we usually see, it was refreshing. A palate cleanser, if you will.
Yeah, my introduction is probably a little less inspirational. I was working at Blockbuster Video circa 1994 when I was trying to find a real job after college, and we had an anime section that was kind of small, but didn't really get a lot of traffic or volume. And then like one rando Tuesday, I was working in the afternoon, and our version of the Central Illinois Hillbilly guy came in and said, "Hey, where y'all keep the mango movies at?" And I assumed he meant manga, which I think the difference between manga and anime. Manga is just graphic novels, right? And then they become anime, right? So anyway, I kind of decoded his verbiage there, and I walked him back to the section where we had featured all of our anime. And he picked a few, and as he left, I kind of lingered around behind and just started to look at some of the artwork on the boxes. And I had grown up with Speed Racer as a kid, and I saw I had some, seminal exposure to it, but didn't really appreciate it because it was, I watched it because it was a cartoon, because that's what kids do. I grabbed a few of the boxes that I saw had higher traffic on them. So like Akira was kind of the gold standard at the time. I think it was 1988. So I watched that, and I watched Ghost in the Shell, which I later watched with Scarlett Johansson because it had Scarlett Johansson in it, not so much with it. And then I kind of wandered over to Vampire Hunter D, and that's where I started to really appreciate the artwork. Is ridiculously good, but there's actually a narrative that has like real emotional resonance behind it. And those are the kind of things you don't catch as a kid, or maybe even a lot of times on your first watch. So I've had a come and go relationship with anime over the years. I kind of revisit it and get immersed in it every 5 or 6 years just to see where it is. And I think I saw Spirited Away sometime around 2005 or 6, a couple years after the U.S. release, and watched it. And I was trying to be too cool for the room, and I watched it at that point with the Japanese original dialogue. Which
wow, listen to you, elitist. Wow.
Well, I mean,
we went to Yale, and even I'm shocked.
Well, I mean, I said U.S. subtitle. I didn't learn Japanese for it, but
Okay.
but what I find a lot, especially like on Netflix, because Netflix borrows like a lot of international stuff, and I cannot stand the English dubbed version of those things, especially like things in French, especially, or things in Spanish. They just cannot get the actor's tone or inflection right ever.
Yeah.
So the emotion never matches.
Yeah, it never comes through. So I typically watch these things with subtitles with the original dialogue, which is hard now because you have to pay attention to what you're watching, and you can't be scrolling on your phone, right? So that's the caveat when you do that, but you have to like pay attention. So, but yeah, that's been kind of my introduction to it. So if we're going to go nerd, we're going to go big nerd, and so Spirited Away is generally considered the benchmark, so I think we'll just kind of get right into it. So. This was released on July 27th, 2001. That was the U.S., or actually the original release. I think the U.S. release came out a couple years later. Hayao Miyazaki was the writer and director. He's generally regarded as the Japanese Walt Disney. He's through his Studio Ghibli, as Amy mentioned, he's really just been a benchmark for Japanese cinema, putting out such classics as Princess Mononoke. I think we mentioned My Neighbor Totoro. And Mike's favorite, Conan the Future Boy. That's what we used to call him back in the day. But these are all really just staples and just classic, iconic Japanese anime. This had a budget of $19 million and saw one of the biggest releases in Japanese history. I think to this day, I think it's just now got overtaken, but it was for 20 years the highest grossing Japanese movie of all time, even more than Titanic. Yeah. So Mike, as an artist, you mentioned some of the appreciation for the artwork here. A lot of this is essentially old school hand drawn animation.
Oh yeah.
Miyazaki typically reviews every cell. Sometimes 188,000 cells. He looks at most of them individually. Wow. This was developed with, even though the narrative is wonderful, there's no script. He typically crafts his films only using storyboards, and kind of let the artwork kind of dictate where the narrative goes, which was really kind of interesting. So this was the first film to earn $200 million before coming to the U.S. Is one of the longest anime films at 2 hours and 7 minutes. But more importantly, Mike, it's one of Nick Cage's favorite movies. So.
Nice.
Thank God.
what Castor Troy likes, we like. We decided that long ago. This was released through Disney. They were the production studio that kind of got the rights to it to distribute through North America. For those that may want to catch this movie before we get too far into it. It's currently, you can turn off our podcast now. You can catch it. I think it's currently streaming on HBO Max or whatever they call HBO Max. I think it's just called Max now.
Just Max.
Yeah, but you got to come back. You got to promise. So.
Pause.
So, ladies, what I thought was interesting about this one is Miyazaki has said that he made this specifically for one demographic, and that was 10-year-old girls. And we are neither one of those things. But I kind of like get your impression, because the thought was, and I think it kind of holds true, is a lot of studios, especially in the U.S., try to cater to every audience. They have a little bit in there to please everybody. By default, they please nobody. Do you think there's any truth, any merit to, like, as from a female perspective, does that 10-year-old girl thing speak to you, or does that something just came in after the fact, would you say?
You can go first.
Yeah, I was actually just going to say that I think, kind of ironically, I think compared to a lot of American animated films that I've seen, I could see Spirited Away appealing to a much broader audience. Like, I feel like I could show this movie to, like, my dad and he would enjoy it, despite, like, the age difference.
Or the gender difference.
Yeah, or the gender difference. Like, I feel like the themes, like, the focus is so heavy on the themes of, like, coming of age and maturity and remembering who you are, that it appeals pretty broadly. But it does, and Janice can probably speak to this better than me. I know that is, like, a pretty common theme that a lot of different anime and manga is geared towards, like shonen versus shoujo. I don't remember the difference 100%.
I don't know exactly. Yeah.
Where it'll be geared towards, like, younger girls, younger boys, older women, older men. Like, have that specific audience in mind.
Something I really like about Spirited Away, and specifically about shows that are directed towards young girls, or specifically animes that are directed towards young girls, it's typically focused on romance and developing that romance in some way. And even though, like, somewhat of a romance is represented between, like, Chihiro and Kahaku. Yeah. Haku. Between Chihiro and Haku. It's not really the focus of the film. And I even find myself, like, whenever I first watched it as a freshman in college, being 18, 19, this idea of being thrust into a world that I'm unfamiliar with and having to be guided by people that I don't know very well, including Emmy. Like, I latched onto her in the same way that the main character latches onto, I'm forgetting her name.
And
Lynn.
Latches onto Lynn. Yeah. In the same way that she latches onto Lynn, I kind of latched onto Emmy, or, like, having these guiding factors and never really knowing what the world that you're in is like. I think is really inspirational to young girls, but even people who are, like, just coming into the adult world.
Yeah.
So even though this has a different kind of theme for young girls in general that's different from anime, I think this really is applicable to a wide audience, like Emmy said.
I think it only works because it focuses on one particular thing, and that focus is dialed in. That I think that kind of by default generates the crossover appeal, because if you try to, the American equivalent of this would be, I'm trying not to mansplain this, so forgive me, but the American equivalent of this would be, some boy rescues the girl at the end, and there's not one trace of this here. Chihiro is the lead. She's the protagonist, and she's the problem solver, even though she falls down all the time and does a lot of gasping and gasping but that she's going to drive resolution to the story. It's going to be through her actions, and she doesn't need a prince to come in and save her, which is a refreshing take on these things, and certainly maybe a cultural difference or something, but it certainly stands out. So
it's like an Alice in Wonderland kind of thing for me. It's like a girl finds herself in an unknown situation, but she has to, as her journey goes, she figures out how to resolve the situation on her own with the help of some weird associates here and there. But there's no distractions. She's on a mission to get back home, and like I say, it's very similar to the theme of this movie in a way.
Well, it gave me a real, like, Wizard of Oz vibe too. That was my first impression. I was like, this is kind of a better retelling of Wizard of Oz, but, like, on PCP. So it's the imagery in here is so crazy that like future proofs itself from any kind of criticism. Because, how can you complain about, continuity errors when, the main characters are frogs, talking frogs, and giant babies, and big stink monsters. So I mean, okay, so I think we probably pretentious ourselves out of that conversation. Let's move on to the next one. So, Mike, the storyline, the narrative is really kind of, but for not even having a script, the actors that kind of had to portray this really had to be on their best performances. So why don't you kind of walk us through the cast and people that interpreted this version of a script?
Yeah, like it was what I found interesting was the American or the English dub was done based on the movement of the voices of the Japanese characters in the anime itself. So the script was written by this couple, and they found some actors to do the dubbing for it, and you had some of your usual stable of voice actors like Tara Strong, who most people would know from like Rugrats or she's been, oh my gosh, she's been the voice of so many things, but she's
Timmy Turner,
Teen Titans Go, I think too. But yeah, she's everywhere now. But yeah, she was the voice of the baby Bo, and then you had Roger Bumpus, who was more famous as Squidward Tentacles. And he's in this movie as I think the foreman, and then John Ratzenberger of Cheers fame, as Cliff Clavin, who after Cheers started his life as like voice of doing, I think he did the pig in Toy Story, right? Or was it a dinosaur? It was the pig, yeah, that's right. Wallace Shawn was a dinosaur, but yeah, so he made kind of a living of doing voice acting, and he's like a assistant manager of the bathhouse in this, I think. And then you had another voice actor, David Ogden Stiers, who most people would know him. Well, most of our audience would know him as Major Winchester from MASH.
Yeah.
And
Lane Meyer's dad in
yeah, that's right. Better Off Dead.
Yeah.
And he's a symphony, believe it or not, a symphony director. He's a maestro with the South Carolina Symphony for a while. Yeah, cool. The actress that really made this movie for me was Suzanne Planchette's voice, because our audience would know her from the Bob Newhart show as Bob's wife, but she had kind of that Kathleen Turner, Lucille Ball phenomenon where her voice all of a sudden got really deep and scary, and she voices the ogre-ish looking bath owner Ubaba in this, and the twin sister. So does that really well. And then you have our two people who really aren't voice actors doing the parents of Chihiro, Michael Chiklis from the Commish, and also from Fantastic Four.
He was the thing.
And as the dad. And then you had Lauren Holly, former Mrs. Jim Carrey, as the mom. So that was kind of weird to me. And then you had a couple kids doing Chihiro and Haku, but that was pretty much your American cast for it.
Yeah, the actress that did Chihiro was Dave Chase, who was also the girl in the Ring, the original Ring.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
MTV's 2003 Best Villain, Mike. 2003 Best Villain. So, but yeah.
Wait, a villain?
I don't want to... I don't want to step on your toes, Mike, but I actually did a little bit of research myself.
How dare you? How dare you?
You don't understand how to do research. That's my proud moment of doing these.
Then you're sorely missing out, because I recognized Lynn from her voice. Susan Egan or Egan, I'm not sure how to say her last name.
Yeah.
Susan Egan voiced Megara in the Hercules Disney movie. Phenomenal voice actress, phenomenal singer. I love her.
Oh, is she a Broadway person?
I think so.
Okay.
And Jason Marsden.
I'm gonna one up you. Marsden. She was in the Broadway version of Beauty and the Beast.
Oh.
The original Broadway version of Beauty and the Beast. She was the star.
That would make sense.
There you go. Take that.
Well, excuse me. And Jason Marsden, voice of Haku.
Yeah.
I looked up the voice cast pretty heavily because Howl's Moving Castle had some major players. It had Christian Bale, it had Josh Hutcherson, it had a lot of pretty famous people. My Neighbor Totoro had Elle Fanning and Dakota Fanning. Jason Marsden voices Nermal in just about every animated Garfield cartoon that has come out.
The world's cutest kitten
since 2000.
Any relation to James Marsden?
I have no idea. I didn't look it up. But Jason Marsden was born, I think, in the 70s. So I'm not 100% sure.
All right. Well, I see you guys have a competition already. It's jazz hands at 10 paces, guys.
Yeah, I'm not gonna let a Yale student one up me, man. Come on.
Yeah. All right. So thank you, Mike, for that. So
Sure.
just a couple other notes about, some relevant pop culture stuff around the time of this movie's release. Mike, we always like to talk about the music scene. So
Oh yeah. What do we have in 2001?
so these were the songs on the radio when you're driving to the theater to go see Spirit Away. You had Lady Marmalade or Marmalade.
Christine Aguilera
That's Miss Aguilera and Pink and a couple other performers.
featuring.
Great stuff. Yeah, we had Bootylicious, of course, Mike, with the Destiny's Child.
Oh yes.
You had the classic "Where the Party At." You're not supposed to end sentences and prepositions, Mike. You know that, right? This was a Jagged Edge featuring Nelly, Mike.
Oh,
Imagine a band in the 2000s that was featuring somebody else.
Yep.
And then my favorite of the on the top 40 here was "Get Your Freak On" by Missy Elliott. So that was the music landscape. Somebody played guitars back in 2001, didn't they?
I'm sure Kurt Cobain or Tupac Shakur was still releasing albums posthumously that time.
All right, some other points of note. When this movie was released, it was released on the same weekend as Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes remake, Mike. We covered that a few shows back, and had opinions about that one.
Wow.
It also premiered on the same weekend as the movie Waitress, but not the good Waitress, Mike. This is the Trauma movie, the Trauma movie Waitress.
What happened to the wait? Was she like an axe murderer or something?
Something with toxic waste, I'm sure. But it was a sex comedy. It was a trilogy of trauma movies that were just awful. The week after this, Jurassic Park 3 came out, and then a couple other horror movies came out. The Others and American Pie 2 came out too.
Hey, The Others is good.
Yeah. So some other notes of pop culture scene. The phenomenon known as Kids Bop premiered
the first one
this year.
Oh wow!
Oh, I hit a nerve there. Okay, we struck a chord. Their first song was "All Star" by the band Smash Mouth.
Oh, no.
I think they actually made that song better. Keeping with our show's theme.
Oh, hey, hey now.
You're an all-star. Yeah.
I guess she's a Shrek fan. Huh?
There you go. Keeping with our show's theme, Cowboy Bebop premiered on Adult Swim. That was the first anime to be shown on American television, which was cool. The peer-to-peer file sharing service Napster was running rampant, stealing people's material. We all thought that was funny.
Except for Metallica. I'm sure they were
Metallica still does not think it's funny.
No.
The first brick and mortar Apple stores were opened up in this year and to launch the iPod, Mike.
iPod.
Portable music, right?
Oh, wow. What a neat idea.
Almost 32 megabytes worth of songs you can carry on your belt. Pretty cool.
Wow.
An album. I threw this in for our co-host. Notably, President George Bush gave the commencement speech at Yale that year.
Wow. Yale graduate.
He essentially did it as a roast. He said, to all the students who received honors and awards and distinctions, well done. And for all the C students, I say to you, you can become president of the United States.
Self-roast.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, so that was the landscape in 2001. This movie was ready to release mostly in small art house theaters. It developed sort of a cult following, certainly, but I think we've probably gone long enough. I think if anything else here, we should probably just jump into it, do a little quick summary. So, Mike, you ready?
I'm ready to hit the button.
All right, ladies, ready to go?
Yeah.
All right, so Mike, hit the button. All right, so we open up with a 10-year-old Chihiro in the backseat of her car with mom and dad. They're kind of moving to a new neighborhood. And dad takes a wrong turn because that's what dads do. And they kind of come across a tunnel. And I think is there some cultural significance? I mean, is there something in Japanese culture about tunnels being symbolic or something like that?
I'm not sure. Janice has actually taken some classes studying Japanese, but I'm not sure. I have no idea.
I'm actually also not sure, but not to throw it back on Emmy. Emmy has taken a class all about trains.
I have taken a class,
and I'm sure there is something about trains. I'll also look it up really quickly while she's talking about it.
Well, I did. It appeared in a lot of Japanese folklore that they believe that when you go through a tunnel, you can that's a pathway or conduit to another world. So they kind of bookend the movie going in and out of this tunnel. But anyway, so mom and dad want to explore the tunnel because of course they do. And as they're walking through, Chihiro's saying, well, maybe we should not do that. But they just go anyway. And then as they get through the end of the tunnel, they kind of come across what appears to be a deserted theme park. They're trying to take assessment of that, and at that point, Dad smells something good, which immediately got really kind of creepy to me, really kind of freaky. So he follows his nose into town. It's kind of like an abandoned town, but he sees this giant buffet laid out with such delicacies as fish heads and squid eyes and just as like like a normal person would do, they just sit down and just engorge themselves. Mom and Dad. I think they actually make some pig noises here as they're eating.
Oh, yeah. They stop talking after a bit.
Yeah.
That's what creeped me out. Is they stopped responding to their daughter. I was like, uh-oh.
Yeah. So because these are usually plot devices, you see something's probably up at this point. But what I liked here is that Dad inhaled an entire dumpling in one bite. So they're already it's maybe a precursor to what's going to happen, and they're certainly gluttonous. And Chihiro's kind of repulsed, so she kind of wanders off and kind of goes to the river, and she sees this giant bathhouse, which doesn't have the same context as bathhouse in the U.S. I think typically
different.
As she's kind of looking it over, the harshly banged Haku kind of runs out, and I thought it was funny that Chihiro and Haku had the same bangs. Kind of interesting.
Just
Yeah. It's fabulous. But he tells her to beat it because there's something coming and she needs to get lost. She can't be seen. And he like blows some dandruff at it. And then she kind of runs back to the restaurant, and then she finds out that her parents have become pigs, Mike.
Oh yeah, what a reveal, huh?
Not just metaphorically. They're like literally turned into pigs. And you guys had mentioned something about this imagery earlier, right? It's upsetting, and I don't know if it's even as a grown ass man, as they say. I did not like to look at these pigs. They kind of gave me the willies, right? So imagine that happens to your parents. So she ends up kind of meeting Haku later, and kind of explaining what happened, and he kind of takes her in and tells her that she needs to get a job to stay in this world. Just like real life, Mike.
If you want to survive, guys.
So he kind of leads her to the next step in the journey down the Yellow Brick Road, where she meets. I'm sorry, what was the engineer's game again?
The bull.
Komaki.
Yeah.
The heavy. You mean the guy looks like Dr. Robotnik or Eggman from Sonic?
Yeah. So he's got 8 legs and he's running the boiler, and she tries to get a job from him, and he says, "No, I don't have any openings, but maybe you can speak to Yubaba." And Yubaba is the matronly old lady that kind of runs the kind of a witch type that kind of runs the bathhouse, and so it just gets weirder after that. So she ends up getting a job with Yubaba. She signs a contract.
It gets weird.
What I thought was really cool, maybe symbolism, is like she signs the contract and Yubaba grabs like her printed signature off the paper and holds it. And so I guess she holds. That's kind of like she holds her spirit in a way. Is Janice, am I anywhere close to that? Is that kind of where
Yeah, so kind of something that we noticed while looking at is
Chihiro.
Chihiro's name has the word 1,000 in it, and it actually means 1,000 wishes. And if you look, whenever she takes her name off the paper, she leaves the word Zen, which is the word for 1,000. So it's like a part of her name that's left. So she's like physically taking the rest of her name, except for the part that she's called throughout the rest of her time in the spirit realm.
And the part that alludes to like money.
Yeah. Because Zen is specifically used like when talking about how much money or yen you're using in Japan.
Yeah.
Oh,
wow. Mike, why did you find that?
Yeah, come on, Mike.
Yeah.
I was too busy looking at the pretty pictures. I'm sorry.
It's the artist in him.
So I'm embarrassed by that because all the while I'm just thinking about that the Radish Spirits has disproportionately sized little man nipples. That's what I took away from that scene. So that's why you guys are here. Chihiro now Sen gets a job, and it's weird because she's human, so all the people think that she smells. They can't stand her smells or odor, which it's kind of the Cinderella element too. She just kind of outcast. There's some people that take her in, and there's some people that kind of just are repulsed by her, which was an interesting dynamic in the early parts of like Act 2. She's as she's doing her regular maid duties, in comes the stink spirit, Mike, which was one of my favorite parts of the movie. And he's come to take a bath, obviously, because it's a bathhouse. So and they notice his odor very early on, and he's trying to take this bath, and I think she notices a thorn, a literal thorn in his side, and she pulls it out. And the stink spirit gives her like this chicken nugget as a reward. What did they actually? Do you remember what they called it in the movie? It's obviously not a chicken nugget, but it's a.
I don't remember, but it's supposed to, I think, like heal something or undo
Yeah.
curses.
Yeah, it's like a little meatball looking thing that she
Mhm.
carries
Yeah.
around in the movie, and there's some relevance there, and we'll kind of get to that. So she starts to get a little bit better reputation by the bathhouse because she did this noble act for this spirit. In the interim, there, Haku's got his own little thing where we find out that he's actually a dragon, and he's kind of
Mm.
patrolling the area, kind of keeping an eye on Chihiro all the while. I like the scene here where he's getting attacked by the paper
Yeah.
birds, that which is really kind of
Yeah.
cool. So they end up kind of messing him up, and so
Death by 1,000 paper cuts.
exactly what it
Mm.
was, yeah. And then she ends up giving him like half of the little ball that the spirit gave him to kind of heal him, which I thought was just this wonderful act of generosity.
Mm.
But a lot of the second act is just her kind of like, trying to piece together ways to save her family and just to try to
Mhm.
endure the situation she's put into. And there's a lot of weird, had to be there stuff that I don't want to kind of get into any kind of detail because we could be here all night. But what I thought was interesting, like a lot of the times when she's moving around, there's a soundtrack in this film, but there's
Mm.
also episodes of like just pure silence. When she's walking through the gardens or running through the gardens or being chased or creeping around at night, which is
Yeah.
interesting because a lot of American movies don't trust their movies to have that much silence. They fear like the audience is going to lose.
Or I need a jump scare.
Yeah, the attention span's not there, right? So what I thought here, I don't know if you guys noticed it too, that some of the most tense and traumatic scenes are the ones where there's no score, there's no soundtrack, there's no dialogue. It's just her kind of
Yeah.
like she's going down the stairs.
Mhm.
If you
she just
there was it was kind of cool because it was like a Peter and the Wolf kind of thing where they had certain music instruments used for certain spirits or certain characters.
Oh yeah.
A lot of
Yeah.
the piano and flute combos were used for some of the goofy little, like little baby turn into the rat or the hawk that's turned into the fly, and just little little sprites that carry the coal into the boiler. It's just really neat how it's just the lightest little touch of piano in certain spots. Just that's all you need. You didn't need to have a overbearing. Wait, who's your is it James Horner? No, who was that guy that just did the last soundtrack for Con Air? It was really bad. I never mind. But anyway, it was. I enjoyed the lightness of the soundtrack. I guess some of the themes was heavy, but it was kept very, like you say, very subtle, very quiet when it needed to be quiet.
Yeah. There's an interesting subplot here. Is it Janice? It's No Face. That's the character's name. No Face. Yeah. So the town that they live in is kind of populated by these spirits and like nameless, faceless kind of. And there's this one particular one they categorize as No Face, and there's a weird subplot where he kind of goes crazy. He offers he can like materialize gold, and he offers gold to anybody that will help him just kind of be recognized, and he gets a little carried away. He starts eating. He eats like 4 or 5 cast members, and what I thought was interesting here is she used the other half of that spirit totem that the spirit gave and gives it to him, and that act of kindness kind of brings him back to reality, which I thought was just interesting because she didn't fight him, she didn't outsmart him, she just offered basic kindness. She gave him
an ipecac.
Ipecac, yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's a lot of vomiting in this movie too, which I really did appreciate.
Yeah.
The vomit per minute ratio was really good. But just kind of summarizing, so she goes through a series of adventures and quests to try to get to the end here, and she her and No Face kind of take a train to go visit Yubaba's twin sister, who it turns out Haku has stolen some of her essence and kind of paid the price, and it's just a series of like righting the wrongs that these characters have done, and kind of affirming everything through just kind of basic human kindness. And I think that's where the emotional resonance of this really comes. There's no great evil to defeat other than just civility and kindness and humanity for frogs or whatever. But just the compassion that all the characters convey at the end is ultimately what kind of brings resolution to the conflict, which is just so foreign in every sense of the word to traditional U.S. narratives for animated films or any other films. These concepts typically don't sell very well, but here it's just done kind of quietly and beautifully and subtle, and it's just that's what kind of makes the subgenre, in my opinion, just so relevant because it does this where other movies don't, you know.
Mhm.
So at the end, the spell was broken with Haku, and I think that's again just to kind of reemphasize the point. They had this kind of shared memory where Chihiro, as a young girl, got sucked into the river and was drowning, and then he was the spirit of that river and saved her life. And that little recollection helps break the curse on him, and he gets the he recalls and gets his name, and he remembers. So it's just kind of a beautiful little thing.
Mhm.
And at the end, Yubaba lifts the spell from the parents, and they turn back into these gluttonous human beings again. And what I love here in Guy's pitching, if you see it too, is the symmetry of the story. The last scene is almost exactly the same as the first scene, just in reverse, right? So the resolution that they have in walking out of that tunnel, they actually have the same dialogue.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know if you guys got this or not. I mean, Janice, but it was implied to me that Chihiro, was she supposed to have a memory of this? What did you guys take away from the ending?
Yeah, so I kind of thought that this was like her maturing, and specifically something that I noticed was throughout the film. The first half of it, she's very much so just a person of circumstance. Everything she's facing is very much so just because it's present and she's relying on other people. But then the second half of it, she's like she has her own agency and she's kind of pursuing her own life in whatever form that takes, such as going to the witch's twin sister to right Haku's wrongs.
Yeah.
And I think she has this memory of it. And I don't know if it's necessarily every aspect of what happened or if it's just like her character changing and becoming this conscientious agent who has like authority over her own life besides being complicit in her parents moving and everything else that's going on in her life at the time.
Yeah, and I mean, if you caught this or not, but what I noticed at the end is it was kind of like the end of Inception, where the top is spinning.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was implied that she would not remember this, but then when her parents ask her about if they're prepared, she's prepared to start a new life and new school. She goes, "I think I can handle it."
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that's like a conscious thing or a subconscious thing, but did you pull anything out of there that I'm maybe missing?
Her hair tie.
Yeah, her hair tie
Mm.
Her hair
glitz.
tie
yeah.
was different.
It,
It was the same purple one that
sparkles.
she was given. Yeah, it
Yeah.
does a
Yeah.
little sparkle thing. I thought it was a nice touch. They
Yeah, it was
just
cool.
a little glimmer from it. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
And I saw that and I was like, okay, that
Yeah.
that means that it meant to me or the audience that it actually did occur,
Mhm.
and she
Okay.
went through all those experiences.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
it wasn't just a dream. And I think I kind of like that arguably like the worst stuff that happens in the movie is done by like her parents being gluttonous or by Yubaba being like, I don't even know,
Greedy.
like really controlling
Greedy,
and
yeah.
greedy. Yeah.
Mhm.
And none of those characters really learn anything. Like we don't even see them. I guess Yubaba kind of learns something when she realizes she misplaced her baby.
How do you misplace a 500-pound baby?
A whole baby. But besides the point, it seems almost like Chihiro and I guess to an extent No Face are the only characters that really actually learn something that they remember, which is cool because it's like it takes it from being a story that is about greed and about gluttony. And I read online that it was on like one Google source, so I don't know how accurate this is, that Miyazaki wrote it to satirize like the 1992 Japanese economic bubble that burst and everything like that. And so it takes it from a movie that's all about these really big, high concept capitalism type things, and it makes it just a story about growing up and never forgetting your childhood and forgetting who you are, which is so cool.
The simple themes and tenets usually work best. You stick to basics, right? So that's great. So
I got a better question. It's not really a deep question, but it bothered me near the end of the movie.
Okay.
Joke incoming.
Who did Ubaba have relations with to have that baby?
Oh God.
Think about that one.
I guess the radish.
What if the baby just died though? Because it's like the spirit realm, so she could have just adopted it.
Oh, that's true. It could be a baby, like a baby that died in real life.
Yeah, because actually I was looking into it.
Oh my gosh, you researched
very recently. But there's like this whole concept that like spirits come and take children away. And it's kind of used to rationalize the idea of like very early childhood deaths. So it could be that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always knew that about the Japanese culture. Like they were very much in touch with the spirit world, and you really see it in this movie as far as our relationship with that kind of thing is, watching Salem's Lot or Amityville Horror, and the Japanese version is like it's really cool, spirit world with a close relationship with nature and human beings.
Yeah, the line's
like it or
super
not.
blurry.
Yeah. Well, regardless of its origins, I don't want to talk about that baby anymore.
Oh, Bo.
So let's kind of move on to awards and
Justice
accolades.
for Bo.
Yeah. maybe on part 2, guys. So this had an opening weekend of $500,000, which on a limited release in smaller house theaters is not bad at all, especially in 2001. I ended up getting a domestic gross of like $15 million, but the worldwide gross was $383 million. So 239 million of that came from Japan, which is phenomenal when you consider there's maybe 120 million people in Japan right now. So this is until like 2020. This was the highest grossing film in Japan history. Demon Slayer, I think the movie actually beat it.
Great movie.
Yeah, we'll cover that next. But just recently, just in 2020, it overtook it finally. This movie made more than Titanic or Harry Potter or any of those movies, so it's still there. It was famously the first anime movie to be nominated and win an Academy Award, which was that's kind of where it got its reputation from. It is the highest rated anime film on the IMDb database, and it's ranked from a box office perspective. It's number 411 of all time, just behind Top Gun, Mike.
Wow.
It was featured on Film Critic list, almost 58 wins and 31 nominations from anything from the Golden Schmoes Awards to the Utah Film Critics, Mike, gave this best picture. So
thank goodness for that, eh?
Yeah,
Mormons know about anime, don't they?
Yeah. So above and beyond this film's legacy is that it is essentially the benchmark for Japanese anime. It's a standard by which most things are kept. It has an enduring legacy to this day. In fact, there's actually a live stage adaptation that I think
oh my gosh,
that still gets rave reviews and is still quite popular. So that's kind of the enduring legacy of this. So just a great, neat little story that's just imaginative and just well, let's get into that. So this is the time where we kind of go through our grumpy meters. So Mike, why don't you kind of give us your impression of your first watch and your most recent watch and what's changed or what's going on? Just a brief kind of summary of the movie.
I have no nostalgia. For it, but I have no grumpiness for it either. It was like I said before, it was really well done. I got lost in the art and just the flowers alone, man. They actually rendered hydrangeas and rhododendron and the cherry blossoms and even camellia blossoms. You could look at an azalea and go, "That's an azalea." No, it just wasn't a random just plant. And I guess I got lost in a lot of that. And the story itself was really, really amazing. You don't even think about the environmental messages in it, which, oh my gosh, it's a message that is subtly told to you through a story that doesn't like to shove it in your face. It's like the story itself was this girl's journey in completing her arc. And you have a incredible environmental message in it that's contained within the sludge monster. It comes with all the trash, or the Haku losing his river because of building apartments. I mean, just that kind of thing just really amazed me, the way they just the layers of themes in this movie. And I loved it. I really couldn't get enough of this. I was glad to watch it again. So I'm glad they picked it.
All right, Janice, you're up. What was your take on the movie?
Yeah. So I feel like even though I watched it just like 3 years ago, 4 years ago, something like that, I did feel a lot of nostalgia. I was like, oh my gosh, it's so pretty. I love the artwork. It's taking me back to the first times that I've like hung out with my college roommates and doing all of that. But rewatching it really kind of gave me that lens to understand more about the plot itself. So even like Mike was saying about the comment on environmentalism or the journey that Chiro was having and her like maturing, and the comments on capitalism like Emmy brought up, it really just allowed me to get that light. I don't think I had any type of grumpiness with it. I had a very positive experience overall watching it. I don't think there was a single moment there was like, this is awful, or oh my gosh, this is a bore. I agree with Mike, or maybe it was you, Justin, who spoke about the oddly shaped nipples on the radish man. That was probably my biggest grump. And even at that, it was like 5 seconds of screen time. So
Well, we're like kindred spirits.
Wow.
That's a great take. Thank you. Emmy, how about you?
Yeah, I also loved it. I guess this would make it my third time watching it. And I think it was kind of cool because this is the first time that I've gone back and watched it, having watched other of Miyazaki's films. And it's kind of cool because a lot of his movies are known for having those kind of subtle things about themes of environmentalism. Or a lot of his movies, especially like House Moving Castle, are very anti-war in a really, really blunt way. Like there's scenes in House Moving Castle where Hal is like literally like on the front lines of war trying to bring peace. And so watching Spirited Away, I kind of resigned myself to like, okay, the themes aren't as obvious. I just won't understand what it's about. I'll just appreciate the artwork and I'll appreciate the story for what it is.
Yeah.
So this was kind of my first time sitting down and actually trying to sit here and really take in what the message was and finding that story about like acknowledging and understanding that you have to grow up eventually, but to never forget who you were when you grow up and to like always remember your name and your family and your friends and the things that you love about the world was really cool. Like I think I read online that Miyazaki's favorite still from the film is that shot of Chihiro sitting next to No Face on the train when they're going to Yubaba's sister's house because he thinks it really encapsulates where like she's gone from sitting in the backseat of her dad's Audi, like trundling along on the roads, to sitting on this train, frontlining this mission to get Haku's freedom. And it's just such a cool moment of growth and maturity. And it was it was awesome.
Yeah, that's a great take. So my take on is, when we started this podcast, we kind of pigeonholed ourselves into two things. One, what grumpy is, and one, what nostalgia is, right? So the key is that, we arbitrarily decided that we wouldn't do movies from past 2000 because that, but as we've done more and more of these shows, and especially when we introduce films like this that are a little more recent, you start to understand that grumpy and nostalgia are very, very subjective, and what I particularly liked about this movie, and what I'm finding as we continue to do these podcasts, is that context is really what drives all of this stuff. So the first time I saw this in 2005, I watched it and I appreciated the art, but what I didn't think I really got a very good grasp on is the context of it. And it was, I just saw it for the narrative and the beginning and the end, but especially have you guys have alliterated so well, is at the Emmy, when you're finishing up and you're talking about all these tenets and things that were there, and it's like, in hindsight, it's all right there. It's all it's all explained to you very simply. There's no weird plot devices, there's no complex plot structure. It's all right there, but you don't see it the first time through. And I think that's my appreciation for this movie. It really came from, like, after a couple of views, and I've read a lot of reviews that are comparable language to this, like, keep watching this movie, because every time you do that, more and more it gets pulled out, So I plan on doing 2 or 3 more viewings here, maybe in 5 years. I'm a little animated out, but I know I'm going to find new context going forward. So it's creative and original and imaginative, and it was just something that South Park sounded better at first, but then I started to think about that was their other pick, but I started to think about, Spirited Away. It's special. It's corny and it's kind of overused, but there's something special about this film that hopefully, if you stuck around this long, guys, if you haven't seen this, you'll kind of go out and check it out and kind of see what we're kind of pretentiously falling over ourselves about. But there really is something special to this movie. So speaking of things that are special, for this week's segment of You Just Made the List, Pal, we're trying to figure out a way to shoehorn a list in, and we talked about animated movies and things like that, but what was interesting about this film is the impression it leaves upon you, and we thought that was right for some generational stuff. So we wanted to understand, maybe we're going to pick a couple of the animated films we watched as kids that had the most impression on us, good or bad. Kids watch animated things. Sometimes they shouldn't. Sometimes they should. And I watched some things that I wish I had not seen, and we'll kind of get to that. So you guys are our guests, so we're going to let you guys go first. So Janice, why don't you kind of pick your first one for us? Kind of walk us through the first one on your list.
Yeah, so the most influential, like, kind of introduction to animation that I could say that I've had is through the show Inuyasha. It was really the first thing that I remember watching as a kid and being really influential to my life. I really just remember loving the plot and the storyline, and it was really my first introduction to Japanese media. And I've been rewatching it recently, and it's just been so nice to see how it holds up to compared to older animes,
Yeah.
in the animation style. And just broadly, like the plot line, the storyline, it's a very similar to Spirited Away. It's a very strong female character who is, in a sense, very much so in control of her life. And I remember this just having such an impact on me
Yeah.
that 10, 15 years later, I'm rewatching it and going back through the
Yeah.
plot line, just
Still there.
enthralled
Yeah.
as I always was. Yeah.
That's a great one. All right.
Cool.
So Emmy, you're up in the chair next. Motivated or traumatized? What's some of
Um,
yours?
I'm gonna go more positive. It was hard for me
Good.
to pick my two because I had a crazy like Danny Phantom phase. And I remember there was one weekend when my parents were out of town and my brother and I camped out in the living room and watched a bunch of South Park at an age that we really shouldn't have watched South Park at. So that obviously left an impact. But I think when making this list, I would have to name Avatar: The Last Airbender as being such a massively influential animated show for our generation.
I like M. Night Shyamalan too.
Mike?
Okay, specifically
animated. Sorry.
Specifically the TV show. Um, just because it's probably more for the story than the actual like. I think the story is more of the selling point as opposed to like the animation style per se. But it's such a good story. It has one of the best like villain redemption arcs I think of the 2000s. It's amazing.
Great. That's a great pick. Thanks. All right, Mike. It's time to get to the boring picks. So me and you're going to be next. So Mike, why don't you go ahead?
I just caught an audible here. I got influenced by what Janice said earlier about, heck, I don't even know what the words were. Shoji Shinjo, anime geared for adults or anime geared for kids.
Yeah.
The one that left the biggest impression on me was a show called The Flintstones. Came out in 1960. One of Hanna-Barbera's best. This show was made for adults. It wasn't a kid's show. It was actually came on at prime time.
Prime time, right?
Yeah. Even the lead, Alan Reed, who did the voice of Fred Flintstone, would do cigarette commercials. But the thing, it was based on The Honeymooners, which was a show that came out 10, 15, few years before in the 50s, and it was basically everybody knows the theme of the Flintstones. It's Fred and Barney get into trouble, and their wives Betty and Wilma always bail them out. But the animation is cheap. Hanna-Barbera didn't go. We're not talking Spirited Away level here, but sometimes Barney's hair would be brunette instead of blonde, or
it happens.
It did a running if a running sequence happened, you would always see the same house in the background every couple of seconds. But the themes of the shows were great. I could quote about every episode from all 6 seasons, and I loved it. It was something I watched every day when I came home from school as a kid. So that was my thing.
Okay,
but the Flintstones, that's an animation that made an impression.
All right, you're going basic. That's a good one. You don't hear a lot of Wilmas anymore, do you?
No, that name's
not a lot of Wilma.
Our band.
If I had a kid, I have a daughter, I'd name her Wilma. I think it's perfect. So my pick is probably a little predetermined here. Back in 1978, my mom took me, a 7-year-old kid, and my younger twin sisters, to the matinee at a mall anchored theater, and we saw the Lord of the Rings, the animated Lord of the Rings, in 1978. And this is the Ralph Bakshi version. Like me and Mike, we actually saw Ralph Bakshi at a panel in Dragon Con a few years back. Interesting guy, a little cranky, but he.
He had some issues that
he sure did.
I don't think he liked the way his future turned out after that.
Regardless of his cantankerous nature, he's the only guy that really had the Tolkien estate's blessing to adapt their work. I think, you know, Peter Jackson and the crew kind of strong-armed him legally to get some of the rights to those movies, but he went in it with the full cooperation of the Tolkien estate, and unfortunately, he didn't have enough cash to really kind of develop the movie the way he wanted to. Some of the animation has been replaced with some rotoscope, which is in and of itself pretty horrifying. Some of those orcs and evil people and through the rotoscope, and that is really creepy. But it's the story kind of ends like at the end of the Battle of Helm's Deep, which is about halfway through the entire story. They ended up making a Rankin and Bass sequel that was just horrible. Return of the
Happy
King.
birthday!
But this was really more geared towards adults. And what sticks in my head about my first viewing as a 7-year-old, it really kind of planted the nerd seed that's still, you know, germinating to this day. But my favorite part of this movie is that the theater we saw it in, there were my little family on their day excursion, and we were sharing the theater with two stoners that were literally smoking in the theater, which you couldn't do back then. But they were getting high the entire movie, and for some reason, I guess because of their inebriated state, they thought that the Hobbit's feet were so funny. Like every time they saw feet, they started laughing. And even as a 7-year-old socially awkward kid, I would just remember being just cringing at this. But man, that's my association. So my favorite is the Lord of the Rings from 1978 for all the reasons I mentioned. That's horrible. All right, we're gonna go around again, and Janice, you're up for your next pick.
Yeah, so feel free to cut any of this out because I don't know if I'm going to be able to articulate it in a very well way. I do want to give a quick shout out.
Totally staying in now.
Shout out.
Amazing. But just a really quick shout out. Adventure Time was such an influential mark on my childhood because it was like the first piece of media that really grew up as I grew up. And so like I loved it as a child, I loved it as a teen, and even watching the HBO Max spinoff, I love it now.
Yeah.
But going on to my actual pick, this is like a very odd, influential animated series that really impacted me, which was Salad Fingers. I don't know if you two know of it. It's a very like, I remember peak middle school, everyone knew of it because it was like one of the first YouTube animated series that was just eerily uncomfortable, very traumatizing, it was just very different from what was being posted at the time. And it wasn't this pretty, sleek animation that had a very clear-cut storyline with it. It was very...
It was kind of like a green Slender Man or something, right?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. He had really long fingers. He liked spoons. I remember
Rusty
spoons. Was really traumatizing. I was trying to be a cool kid and like watch it with the kids who were like a year above me and be like, yeah, I'm not afraid of this. But I remember there was one time I think he like peeled back his skin, which was like really like gut wrenching, right?
Yeah, now we're getting somewhere.
It was my first exposure to this type of animation, and it was very like, all animation doesn't have to be cartoony like Adventure Time and Steven Universe, nor does it have to be anime and this very sleek teenage kind of adult narrative.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's just another media to tell an interesting story, right? It's just very cool.
And it was, I think Salad Fingers specifically had this disconnected storyline that I didn't notice in any other type of media because I don't know. I recently just rewatched like an explanation video on it. It's so interesting because it's all connected, but not really. But that's for another time.
That's a great pick. Thank you.
That's a story for another time.
That's a story for another time. All right, Emmy, you're up. You're next.
Putting Salad Fingers over Adventure Time is crazy.
You got to follow that. So good luck.
I really. Again, I was having a lot of trouble trying to land on a pick. I shout out to Chowder, which has super cool like animation style with static textures and stuff.
Yeah.
Shout out to Regular Show, which is freaking fantastic in every single word. Great voice acting in particular. Shout out to the Boondocks. which is like
Mm.
really cool fusion of like an anime style with a decidedly like American production company and
With-
tone and setting and everything.
Great social commentary too.
Oh yeah,
Mm.
fantastic show. And shout out to Demon Slayer, which Janice and I are watching. The new season is coming out right now. It's amazing. Great anime with a fantastic plot.
Don't watch the new movie.
Yeah, don't watch the new movie though.
Okay.
But my actual pick, just to keep
Canceled.
it brief, is okay, don't cancel Demon Slayer. The movie just didn't
All right.
have a lot of new content, and we paid to see it in theaters
Yeah.
expecting new
Oh.
content. And it was,
Okay, I see.
$15 a ticket.
it was a lot of recap.
Oh my
but
goodness.
it was a lot
Mike,
of recap.
they're getting grumpy. You hear it, Mike? They're
Yeah, I
right
hear it.
before our eyes.
Grump meter's going off. But no, my pick for my second top animated thing is without a doubt Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Oh my goodness gracious. That is a beautiful, fantastic movie. Wonderful plot, amazing revolutionary animation style, absolutely gorgeous. I saw it 2 times in theaters, same day. I went to see it with my friends and I loved it so much. I went back later with my dad to watch it in 3D. It was absolutely amazing. And the sequel, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, comes out from this point in time, 1 month and 1 day, but it'll come out June 2nd. It's going to be amazing. I'm going to have a seat and it's going to be wonderful.
All right. That's a great pick. Thank you very much. All right, Mike, we're back around to you.
No Squidbillies? What's wrong with you? Justin, I bet you didn't know this, but my porn name was Rusty Spoons. My second pick is
I noticed.
it was a movie that was really at the time. I saw it on HBO and probably when I was a little kid, 11 to 12 years old. Some of our fans listening will know this movie is called Heavy Metal. Very disturbing animation. It was lifted from the pages of a magazine, I think, called a Heavy Metal Mag or whatever. But it was based on like music of Judas Priest or Dio, Black Sabbath. It was an anthology. It was just It was borderline porn.
I was going to say borderline pornography, so you probably fit right in, Rusty.
Yes, Rusty. Is it Dusty? I'm Rusty. That's right. And it had big breasts. It had just nudity. It had all kinds. And this was on HBO at the time, so whatever. But the animation's almost off-putting. It's so grotesque. It was Ren and Stimpy before there was a Ren and Stimpy. It was just
Ren and Stimpy. Yeah.
Was that Ralph Bakshi too? Heavy Metal?
I don't think so.
That's Fritz. I'm thinking Fritz the Cat. Never mind.
Yeah. Fritz the Cat. That was the X-rated one. Now this one had various animators, and the styles kind of clash, but it has an overall theme. But it has it has Black Sabbath. It has Devo music. Even has Journey in it. But it spans like space adventures. It goes to New York City, but the animation itself, like I say, it's when you first watch it, it's so off-putting. And I remember it almost traumatized me as a kid. And
that's a good one.
It stuck with me. I don't think I could watch it again, honestly. It's a cult classic, but I'm not gonna.
Well, I'm gonna thank you, Mike. That's a great one. I'm gonna stick with the trauma theme. My second and final pick here is Watership Down. So this is the Richard Adams book from like 1978, and it's about a warren of rabbits that have to find a new place to live with oncoming development in there. And it is probably one of the single most traumatic things I'd seen as a child. The cast of characters, these rabbits, they're not anthropomorphic nor are they cartoonily drawn. They're like real life art, realism type drawing. And the trials and tribulations that these rabbits have to go through. Well, here's the catch. They premiered this on Easter Sunday.
No!
It is not an Easter movie, even though there's rabbits in it. But there are several traumatic scenes, including some of the rabbits getting buried alive.
Yeah.
The Hoodaroo, the tractor runs over one or two of them,
and the dogs ripping off the throats of a lot of the main characters is just that's just horrendous. And as a child, so I started to think, as a child, I was privy to this kind of abuse on a pretty frequent basis. Charlotte's Web. They showed us Charlotte's Web in school, and we all know the end of Charlotte's Web. And then little boys are crying in class. That's not cool. I mean, we talked about Gen
It
X
goes back to the day.
last.
It goes back to the days of Bambi, though. You know, when you
Yeah.
see the mom
Okay, there you go.
die.
Another one, Bambi. We made the generational points about, our Gen X generation being like the last feral generation, the last, didn't need trigger warnings, but maybe trigger warnings aren't such a terrible thing, because these things, I mean, to this day, I remember those scenes of those rabbits getting terrorized, and it just kind of, this visceral experience just kind of hangs on. But yeah, so yeah, that's kind of my final pick. So
Nice downer there.
well, well, my honorable mention was the Looney Bugs Bunny movie.
All right, there you
okay,
go.
Oh
so
my gosh.
back when you could watch Warner Brother cartoons that had actual violence in them, and they were on TV, but that's okay. Those are all gone now.
Those Merry Melodies that he showed. You ever seen those ones from like the 30s, where like a toy store and all the toys come alive and start beating each other up and stuff? Those are violent.
Yeah,
incredible.
And pretty racist at the end of the day. But,
well, that goes without saying.
But sometimes awfully funny. But yeah, it's just a different time. All right, so that's going to kind of wrap it up, guys. We've kind of gone well into over our 90-minute limit here, so I'm going to have to cut out a lot of Mike stuff, so get it down to an hour.
That's okay.
It'll be okay.
Yeah. Can I make one more shout out by any chance?
Please. Yeah.
Okay, I thought Emmy was going to mention this, but there's another YouTube series called Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared.
Oh, no.
And it's also very traumatizing. But it does this thing that I'd never seen before, where it mixes like different mediums of animation towards like cartoon animation, real life acting,
Puppetry.
It's
also existentially horrifying.
Yeah, I thought that wasn't worth saying. I thought everyone knew that, but
yeah. All right, that's a great addition there. Thank you very much.
You.
Wow, so we've come to the end of the line, guys, and it's time to put our pencils down and wrap it up. This was a lot of fun, guys. Thank you so much. You should have been studying tonight for taking time out of your schedule to come talk to us.
I have a presentation tomorrow morning at 9 a.m.
I have one the day after.
Wow.
I think you're going to subconsciously write "radish spirit man nipples" on your paper. I guarantee it.
Yes.
In all seriousness, guys, it was really a pleasure working with you guys. To have you guys on the show and really kind of collaborate with us, it was super fun, and we hope that you will certainly consider coming back in the future. So
I'd love that.
Absolutely.
And we'd also like to get you guys to contribute more secondhand nostalgia, so we can take a couple of days off. That would be really nice.
Yeah, we could watch Con Air.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Don't do it.
Or maybe that horrifying bunny movie.
Yeah, we could watch Watership Down.
No, don't. Decline. So that's going to kind of wrap it up. Just want to let you guys know that if you've listened this long, we commend you. If you're interested about anything else on the show, you can check out our social media page. We're at Grumpy Nostalgia on Instagram. If you want to send us an email, you can do that at nostalgiagrumps@gmail.com. And if you want to tell your friends about us, we're currently featured on all the major podcasting platforms. So, ladies, do you have any other shout-outs or anything you want to plug before you head out?
Shout out to the Connecticut Sheepwool and Fiber Festival. It's the last Saturday in April every year. We just went Saturday.
Yeah, if you're in Connecticut, it's at the North Haven Fairgrounds from 9 to 4 p.m.
You can take the bus.
You can take the bus.
All right, Mike, you got to follow that. Anything else on your end, Mike, before we head out of here?
I've been sitting down so long that my butt keeps getting bigger, but there's plenty of it to kiss.
That's so fantastic, Mike. All right, so Mike, just remember, I'm always going to be the extra smelly stink spirit in your bathhouse.
Oh, thank you.
All right, so for Emmy and Janice and for Mike James, this is Justin, and we will see you again next time.
See ya.